Battles have changed the course of history before.
It's the competitive nature of hip-hop.
Look, the matchup between Fifth and Ye was definitely Clash of the Titans.
It's the hip-hop event of the year.
You had Godzilla versus King Kong. I mean, it was like the Super Bowl of hip-hop at that time.
What's up? This is Great Rizzy, and you're watching Making.
The impact that 50 and Kanye created during that moment of the battle of the sales, it was just absolutely amazing. I never seen so many people so excited. Every single moment was big.
Do I think it was intentional? Yes. Do I think it was strategic? Yes. Do I think it was something that was kind of Don King? Yes. Do I think it was needed? Absolutely.
And I think that it was so strategic too to help both of their sales, because it was like, you're not going to want to buy the Kanye album without the 50 album, or the 50 album without the Kanye album. It was two huge albums that came out that you just were saving your coins to get at that time.
50 Cent, Kanye West facing off in stores today.
You finally got the chance to see the kid in the pink polo with the backpack go up against the dude in the bulletproof vest. There was a lot of people that was watching like, oh, things about to change.
I think it's going to be a great day for hip-hop. Probably one of the biggest days of hip-hop, and it's going to start a trend.
From the early days of hip-hop, the battle has been an extremely important part of hip-hop. Busy Bee versus Kool Moe Dee, Biggie versus Tupac, Jay-Z disses Nas, and Mobb Deep. It was a big part of hip-hop, and it was definitely a way to get on in your career.
Well, I think the competition is always good. Any competition, any level of competition is great. You know what I'm saying? It gives you an opportunity to branch yourself in other avenues as far as markets.
If you're in any sport, if you're competitive, you want to be the best. But in hip-hop is one of those things, I gotta be the best. If I'm not the best, then I'm the worst, and I can't be the worst, right?
Kanye West doesn't stand a chance. And I'm gonna tell you that early.
The Kanye and 50 battle is a strange sort of part of the history of battling, because they're not making records about each other. It was a sales competition.
They face off in the stores, in the retail.
But in this case, it was a race to number one. Who is the king of hip hop, so to speak?
You gotta understand, there was times where artists would know that another artist was gonna come out at that day, and they would push their sales. They would push their release date back.
You have people, yo, if this guy's gonna drop, yeah, you might wanna wait at least 2 weeks for the air to clear before you even think about dropping, because you're gonna be swept up in the tidal wave.
Kanye changed his release date so they would both come out on the same day.
What was your reaction when you heard Kanye's album was coming out? He moved it to your day.
You know, I didn't think it was a good idea at first. And then I thought about it and I was like, yo, this is gonna be good. So I started working towards it. Like, Kanye hasn't said anything disrespectful or expressed any discomfort to the success I've been having, so it's not actual beef. It's just being competitive.
So the fact that these two were like, nah, we're gonna make this our Super Bowl, our hip hop Super Bowl, it was genius, because there was so much press behind it.
Friendly competition is very, very good for the music industry. You know, 50 is on one side of hip hop, Kanye's on the other side. It's the Clash of the Titans.
You know, it was a lot building up to each of these albums.
The contrast between 50 and Kanye is really interesting, because this kind of represents the two major roads that hip-hop has been on over the last 10 or 20 years.
You know, you had Kanye, who wasn't even supposed to be here, literally and figuratively, right? You know, literally in the sense that he had not one but 2 car accidents, and figuratively, like, people, they wasn't really trying to mess with a producer who rapped. And you got to remember, he was the type of producer that really didn't fit the mold for anybody. He was somebody that nobody had really saw before, so nobody really wanted to take the chance on it.
Through the 90s and into most of the 00s, street cred was incredibly important in hip-hop. And to be considered one of the top rappers, you kind of had to be able to say, I was a drug dealer. Like, I have that on my resume.
When it comes to, you know, the clash of cultures, so to speak, right? You have something that's very aggressive, very New York, very core to what you've known to be hip hop thus far. And that would be 50 Cent. Get Rich or Die Trying, hottest thing since sliced bread. It was a phenomenon. He was everywhere.
In the hood and the lady saying 50, you hot. They like me, I want them to love me like they love pop. But holla in New York, show to tell you I'm local. When the plan is to put with the rap game in the choke. I'm fully focused, man. My money on my mind, got a meal out the deal, and I'm still in the grind. Now shorty says she feeling my style, she feeling my flow. A girl from Wooded, they buy and they ready to go.
Girls loved him. They thought he was hot. The fellas thought he was hard. He's gangster. He just had everything that everybody wanted. And he made females, at least for me, I felt like I was gangster when I was listening to 50.
Shorty, you ain't gotta take it, dog. Just move to the side. If you wanna ride on the roller coaster, baby, come on and ride. It go up and down and round and round. Stand up, go get on the floor.
I was like, yeah, I'm tough. I'm not even from New York, but all of a sudden, 50 made you embody where he was from. You felt the streets when you listened to 50's music.
But when it comes to, say, Kanye West, it was kind of like, yo, this guy's different. How many artists do you know out there that were not being themselves, but they had to go ahead and take on this persona, right? With Kanye, it was one of those things where, okay, this guy's wearing polos, he's wearing pastels, he's being very honest. On the other side, with 50 Cent, it was, you know, it was what hip hop was deemed it should be.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. I run New York. You call this my new hit, but it ain't new though. I got rid of my old. Now I got Negroes. First it was the Benzo, now I'm in the Enzo. Ferrari, I'm sorry, I keep blowing up.
And a lot of times I like to think about hip hop as sort of like the high school cafeteria. And 50's definitely at like the tough guy table, talking about tough guy things. Kanye emerges from an entirely different place. He's unapologetically suburban. His first 3 albums are talking about college. If there's like a nerd art school table in the hip hop lunchroom cafeteria, he's over there.
I dropped out of college. I'm a backpack kid, but I'm still doing this phenomenal work. He was solidifying himself, not just as a dope producer, but as a great artist as well.
There's things about Kanye where he was sharing a lot of vulnerability. He was almost like an open book, and it was kind of cool. It was like, all right, this guy's different. You know, I want to hear what he has to say. What more is he going to share?
The contrast between these two guys could not be more stark, just in their personal lives and then, of course, on the mic. To have them sort of having this clash is interesting because it's this cultural clash within hip hop.
I don't know which one had the idea, who decided, or did the label decide, or they said whatever. I think it was one of the most brilliant marketing schemes that they ever could create, because there has never been a hype around an album sale like the fellas created in that moment.
When I'm in a public fight with people, it gets me attention, it gives me energy, it gives my fans something to root for and to rally behind. And it's an important way of selling myself.
Excuse me, was you saying something? You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
And we're talking about aesthetics, which Kanye had been building up over this time. It's not just about, yo, I got the biggest chain, or I got the you know, the most expensive t-shirt or jeans. Like, yo, look at the art that's here. Now we talking real money. Now let's get into this music.
Wait till I get my money right.
He was now bringing his production skills and his music writing skills together and creating who he is of excellence.
You know, Kanye's third album was, you know, the third part of his college sort of trilogy. That was interesting that you know, there was a theme that had continued. He was growing musically.
When it drops, my album is the pinnacle of what music is at that time. It's clearly the best album that you can buy.
This guy included people on the album that we rarely even, you know, think about when it comes to hip hop. Elton John on the album, bro. What are we doing here? This is like a boom moment. A song like with T-Pain, Good Life, which everybody in the club at prime time, if you didn't have money to pop a bottle, you was popping a bottle because of that song. It made you feel that good.
Oh my God, it's so unfair. Once you all see this video, it's the best thing you ever seen in your life. I swear to God, this right here is the good life.
I go for mine, I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine, I get to shine.
It was a masterpiece of a work of art, of recording, that let us see so many things in so many different angles and through a lot of different prisms that we weren't always accustomed to seeing them through.
There's so much you could say about Kanye, but there's only one word to really describe him, and it's genius.
While Kanye was to say something like stadium status and really talk and manifest what he wanted to be, 50 Cent was already there.
His business senses were starting to kick in. You saw 50 really getting into some acting. You saw 50, directing great videos. You saw 50 becoming this businessman, vitamin water. There was this big opulence that surrounded 50's just big.
In the years following this battle, this clash, the art school nerd table of hip hop starts to grow.
Did Kanye West's graduation flip the switch on hip hop to a sense where it started to exit the hardcore rapper and, usher in the emotional kind of hip hop guy? I wouldn't say it flipped the switch where it turned off the gangster rappers, so to speak. I think it flipped the switch where another light came on in the room and everybody was like, wow, what's that over there? Actually, that's a nice light. It's a nice LED light that has all kind of different lights in it. It's not just white hot. It's blue, it's red, it's green. It's like all these different, it's like a smart bulb. It's crazy.
Every generation wants to be able to say like, this is our music. And this gave them the opportunity to claim a sound and a feel of their own.
It was one of those things. After that first week, I think Kanye did 900 plus and 50 did 600 plus. And it was one of those things like, oh man, the underdog won. The guy in the pink polo beat out the guy in the freaking bulletproof vest. It's different now.